Lads, today we are filming, we are showing you, we are bringing you the return of my favorite deck to play. I am so happy I finally got everything I needed together. I've been testing this deck a lot lately, as often as I have the ability to, and this is the first deck profile I have done post my final child being born. Yes, I am now officially a daddy of 3. So, congrats to me in the chat. Aside from that, we want to get into this deck profile, and we're going to go over my card choices. And if you've been watching my How to Yu-Gi-Oh series, I will be going over a little bit of some of the things that I have talked about in those videos. But if you would like to see more of those videos, make sure to subscribe to the channel, go to my page, and you'll be able to find the How to Yu-Gi-Oh videos. If they're not up yet, they will be shortly. I am in the process of scripting them as I'm recording this, and I should be recording them over the next couple of days, getting them uploaded and edited out to you guys. But until then, I wanted to bring you guys something special, something I'm a really big fan of, and that is Orcust at full, well, almost full, power! All we're missing is Harpoor, and we'd have all the boys here, which is sad that we lost Harpoor. But we're going to dive right into this deck profile, so let's get to it. Before we dive right into this deck profile, I wanted to bring your attention to a smaller Yu-Gi tuber here in the Yu-Gi-Oh community, and that would be Red Eyes Jacolo. Red Eyes Jacolo is a very interesting Yu-Gi tuber with engineering decks, showing you how decks work and how archetypes work, as well as very inventive and creative deck profiles. I highly recommend him if you haven't already subscribed. A link will be down in the description. But now, on with the video. Alright lads, now that we're here, and we're going to dive right into this fun-filled, lovely video, we're going to start with, of course, triple copies of Girsu, the Orcas Mech Knight. This is your Armageddon Knight. So this card is incredible in both Orcas and Mech Knights, actually. And what this card does is allows you to dump a Orcas or World Legacy card from your deck to the graveyard. Gets your whole Orcas thing started. It also, if it's the only monster on the field when it's summoned, it summons a token to your side of the field and to your opponent's side of the field. You can use this to be a one-card Galatea. It's a literal one-card Orcust combo, which is actually incredible. So, Konami, if you're watching this, please bring Harpoor back to 1. But it's a level 4. It becomes a tuner if it's got more cards in the same column. If it's got 2 other cards in the same column, which can be used for synchro plays. If you build your deck that way, this deck just isn't built that way. But moving on from just Girsu, the cards you could send, starting off with triple copies of Orcas Nightmare. This is another foolish burial for the deck. It gives an attack boost based on the level of the Dark Machine monster sent to the graveyard. And it can't be destroyed by battle with Link monsters. Very important effect there. It's a big booty, and it's level 7, which can come up if you are playing something like Borreload Savage Dragon in the side deck with cards that are in your deck, like Brass Bombard or other cards that you're going to see in the deck. So, Orcas Nightmare is a 3 of, absolutely fantastic. 2 copies of Orcust Symbol Skeleton. Yes, we've almost got the whole orchestra together. But until we get the whole orchestra together, we do want to play 2 Symbol Skeleton. This card is your Monster Reborn, being able to summon Girsu from your graveyard on your opponent's turn, or even summon Girsu to further your plays like, oh, okay, well, I only have a Symbol Skeleton, so I'm going to use that, get the Girsu out of the graveyard, dump another card, and continue my plays that way. So, Symbol Skeleton's actually got a lot more versatility now because of Girsu than it's ever had before in its life, which is why I think 2 is perfect. 1 copy of Orcust Brass Bombard. This is part of the Halki Fibrax combo. This allows for Scrap Recycler to be a 1-card plus discard Orcust combo, which is absolutely silly. And it's even better if you have an Orcust monster in your opening hand as well, another Orcust monster. Girsu being amazing with it, so Brass Bombard. 2 copies of World Legacy World Wand. This returns your banished monsters to the field. It's level 8. That is important. You will see later in the deck. And then finally, 1 copy of the honorary Gizmek Orochi, the Orcust Serpentine Skyblaster. The Orcust part is not part of its name, but this card is so mandatory. It is a level 8, It's got awkward stats, but that's perfectly fine. Its quick effect to summon itself is fantastic. Its ability to destroy things by getting rid of 3 cards from your extra deck, which a lot of the times you're not going to use your whole extra deck. A lot of them, there's a lot of flex picks in it, and we'll go over those when we get to the deck itself, but Gizmek Orochi, absolutely mandatory. Continuing with the Orcus cards, we run 2 copies of Orchestrated Return. Orchestrated Return dumps 1, draw 2 cards. Very, very helpful. Depending on your hand and what you're doing with your field, this card just helps you get back into it and grind to your games, or in games where you don't really need to, or you open something else, this is just a win more card. 1 copy of Orchestrated Babel. It's Babel, you have to run it. And then finally, 1 Orcust Crescendo, because it is your counter trap. And that's going to do it for the Orcus lineup. Next up, we have a few supplemental engines, and a lot of these are going to be 1-ofs with a couple of 3-ofs, and it's very awkward, so we're going to go over the supplemental engines. We're going to start with Machina Citadel, 1 Machina Metal Cruncher, 1 Machina Fortress, 1 Machina Megaform, and 1 Machina Irradiator. Okay, so this lineup I have found is absolutely fantastic. It gives you 5 different effects that all work. The only one you don't want to see by itself is Machina Megaform. The rest of them actually work pretty well independently. Citadel and Fortress would be the only ones I would increase the count of. Irradiator is part of the combo with Citadel with this next card. So Metal Cruncher basically says with Megaform, if you use, let's say you use Irradiator to summon Megaform out, you use Megaform's effect to summon Metal Cruncher, and it freely gets you Scrap Recycler, which is absolutely silly. And I like silly. Next up is going to be your spell cards to see them. 3 Machina Redeployment. This just lets you add 2 of them to your hand by discarding a card. You don't care about discarding. It's Orcust. You play out of the graveyard. Moving on through the supplemental engines, we're running triple copies of Scrap Recycler. Yes, Scrap Recycler is the better version of Armageddon Knight for this specific deck, and it has more powerful applications, especially going second, with a copy of Scrap Golem. And finally, 1 copy of Jet Synchron. That's right, Scrap Golem lets you use Scrap Recycler's effect more than once at a turn. Jet Synchron is part of your Halki Fibrak combo, and you don't need any other cards to do it, because Halki Fibrak's a summon from the hand or deck. Summoning from the deck is obviously better, but if you have to, Jet Synchron will freely let you get that Brass Bombard out, and it just helps you late climb a little easier. Finally, we've got 1 copy of World Legacy Succession and 1 copy of Foolish Burial. Succession is just a win more card, and it helps you with going second. There's a purpose to it. Foolish Burial is just more ways to dump cards from your deck. And finally, we're going to stick with this for right now because we're going to go into the Hand Trap lineup. The Hand Trap lineup is going to be 2 copies of Nibiru, the Primal Being, 2 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 2 copies of Fantastical Dragon Phantasme, which is just letting you draw more cards to get your bricks out of your hands. Going second, this card is actually really helpful, but even if you don't need it going, even going first, you can just pitch it for free. It doesn't really matter. And then 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Yes, I finally got my Imperms. So that's going to do it for the main deck. It is 40 cards. This deck is super fun to play. But let's dive right into this extra deck and side deck, shall we? Alright, starting off the extra deck, we've got triple copies of Galatea, the Orcust Automaton. This is the most important card in your entire extra deck. This card shuffles the banished machine monster back into the deck to set an orchestrated speller trap card to the field. Now, you've got 4 targets for it. Babel is obviously your normal number 1 go-to, with Crescendo typically being your secondary, but with the 2 copies of Orchestrated Return, it just says let's gain some more advantage off of recurring our resources back to our deck. To go along with the Galateas, and yes, I did finally shiny them all out, 2 copies of Dingirsu, the Orcust of the Evening Star. This card, when it's summoned, gets rid of a card, non-targeting removal, always a big plus, big presidential thumbs up. But it also has the protection effect, which actually pairs really well with something like Citadel. You can use Citadel to target itself blow up everything with less than 3,000 or whatever attack points it has from the mitigations, and then you use this to protect it. So it did target it, it just didn't destroy the card, which will trigger its effects. Dingirsu just allows you to do some really silliness. Next up, Longirsu, and I actually am still running Orcustrian, which I will explain when we get into the side deck. Longirsu is non-targeting removal, but it can't attack. Orcustrian just says your effects are negated and you have no attack points, which actually can come in clutch, especially in longer games when you need to just make a push for game. This will get you there. And that will do it for the Orcust part of my extra deck. Now, I will go over where you can make some quick changes. There's only really 2 cards that I would recommend switching, 2 or 3 cards on a budget in the extra deck that I would recommend changing. Link Karibo. It's necessary for the Girsu plays. Wyvern. This card, going second, this is the best card, one of the best cards in the game, because it freely just gets rid of cards on your opponent's side of the field. 1 IP Masquerena. Going first, this just allows you to make a multitude of different plays that are absolutely silly. 1 copy of Christian Halki Fibrax. Halki Fibrax is part of the Supplemental Engine Orcas combo. 1 Lib, the World Keyblade Master. This card, when you use it as a link material, it bounces a card. So using the normal plays that you'll do, going second, you'll be able to pick apart an opponent's board pretty effectively, especially with the cards in your side deck, as long as you just see like one of like 9 cards, which is crazy to think about. So Lib is incredibly important. So these next 2 cards you can shade out for like Borreload Savage Dragon, or Cyber's Quantum Dragon, or a bunch of other cards. All 3 of these are up to personal preference, and I'll go over each one. Topological Zeraboros is actually one of the most important cards just because you banish so much. This card can really steal games, and summoning it during your opponent's turn is silliness. 2+ effect monsters, really nice card to have. You can substitute this out. This is probably one of the most budget cards in the deck, so this card I will almost say, if you're on a budget and you're trying to play Orcus, 1, what are you doing? But 2, if you are and you already have like the Girsus, or you already have like a change up for Girsu in like Armageddon Knight and Rhoda and Dark Gruffer, or Double Mathematician in an Armageddon Knight, or whatever, Zeraboros is a card you can't do without. This card is absolutely silly. Now, the cards you can do without, Boral Sword Dragon. You could change this out with Nightmare Unicorn or a Nightmare card. This is just a way to OTK, but your side deck kind of takes care of that. The other card is Apollosa. You could sub this out with like Borreload Savage Dragon and things like that. You can put in Synchros in place of these because you're able to OTK. If you want to make it more of a control deck, you can do that. It's kind of up to you. I just put these in because I have the space. Because I have them, I have the space, and they're really powerful, really good cards. But now we're going to move on to the side deck. And this side deck is absolutely fantastic. I recommend this side deck if you're playing Machina Orcus the way I'm playing it. But if you're not, then this is just good side decking cards, and we'll go over each one. So when you're going against control decks, you've got 6 cards typically that you want to side in, going second, specifically because you're playing against the control deck, and these will help you win the game. 1 Dino Wrestler Pankratops, 1 copy of Red Reboot. If you're playing against a trap deck like Altergeist, these 2 cards can really help you set it apart. 2 copies of Cosmic Cyclone, if you can afford Lightning Storms, or you have them. Lightning Storm in place of Cosmic Cyclone is highly recommended. I don't have them, I can't afford them, but Cosmic Cyclone does do the job. You can trade this in for Twin Twisters if you so desire, if you know you're going second. It's kind of up to personal preference. And finally, 2 copies of Evenly Matched. Yes, you side 6 cards against trap decks. All of them are crazy, or against control decks in general. These 6 cards will help you go against them, and you can side out whatever you feel is necessary. I normally will side out my hand traps. And that's it for the control deck part of my side deck. Now let's get into, you're going against the combo deck. Well, for the combo decks, you've got OTK Choo Choo and Dark Ruler No More. With Dark Ruler No More, it just shuts off the field, allowing you to be able to do whatever you need to do, pick the board apart, and then set it up in a way that most of the top combo decks don't have any advantage after their field's broken. So after their field's broken and you set up a really powerful field, you'll end with a crescendo set that's live. So if they try to Dark Ruler you, you're able to stop it. And Urgent Schedule is just absolute silliness. These are blowout cards against combo decks. And finally, if you're going first and you feel like if you're playing against like a control deck or something, and you lost game 2 for whatever reason, and you go into game 3, this is a game 3 card when you've lost game 2. Deck Lockdown. This card is absolutely crazy, and the fact that it's so cheap is even crazier to me. So neither player can add cards from their deck to their hand except by drawing them. So it's Thunder Dragon Colossus, but it's a continuous spell. And they can't special summon monsters from the main deck. It's just destroyed after the second main phase. So you can use this against combo decks like, oh no, you're not, nope, not today. You got Deck Lockdown now. And you can activate this after you're done with your plays. So you make all your plays, and then you Deck Lockdown them, and now they've got to do their plays, but they don't get to summon from the deck, they don't get to add, so they're very limited in what they can do. It destroys the usefulness of Block Dragon going second. It really just holds things down, and it forces them to waste resources to get rid of one card, which is great. Alright lads, and that's my Orcus deck profile. I hope you enjoyed. This is my version of the deck. Use it as a template when building a deck, and let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you like this video, feel free to subscribe. I appreciate it, all the help and love and support. Make sure to check out the Twits, and there's a link to a TCG Player store in my description of every video. If you want to buy cards and whatever, there's links down in the description, including the TCG Player, where if you can help support the channel by buying a card from that site, that shop, or buying one of the shirts on the merch store, it goes directly into helping the channel a little bit, and it helps me create better deck profiles for you guys. So, until next time, lads, good fun, have luck.